movie we're introduced to two young girls, playing by the water. After a brief moment the camera zooms into the waters and transitions into a remote place occupied by people, mostly females carrying out various activities and all. The movie portrays a young teenage girl called Sela. She lives in a forest with the rest of her family belonging to a polygamist cult. The cult leader, Michael, who they referred to as the shepherd, is the only male in the group and allows only female infants into his family. Every morning after the ladies wake up he stays by the door and gives them a kiss, supposing to grant them his grace. In this family, the females are divided into two categories based on the color of robe they wore. The young teenage girls, also the daughters, are always dressed in blue. The second category are the older women referred to as the wives. They are the mothers of the teenage girls and they are dressed in red. During sermons with their leader, both the women and girls would dress in white while the shepherd would use the blood of a lamb to paint their faces, making them temporarily shout insanely. Whenever Sela is alone with the shepherd, he would tell her soothing words which were complimenting her beauty and charisma. However, she would try to get information about her late mother who died, but he repeatedly refused to answer. Rather, he tells her she died during childbirth. This made her somewhat curious and gradually impatient. After getting in a little argument with her sisters, she is sent to deliver food to the impure, a set of women who had committed crime against the shepherd and were treated like animals as punishment. However, Sela has become more of a focus of the shepherd's attention. She frequently wonders about her mother, who died giving birth to her. During the night, Sela would look outside her window, into the darkness, where she would notice the shepherd and one of her sisters about to share the same bed. The next morning Sela is tasked with watching over the sheep when she falls asleep. Waking up from drowning in a dream, she locates one of her flock after it gives birth. Suddenly notices blood from her lower body running down her thighs. One night, Sela overhears a police officer telling the shepherd that the group must leave. The shepherd announces that he will be leading the women on a journey to a new home. During the arduous journey, Sela begins to doubt his judgment. When she sees a car driving on a road, she has a fantasy of herself inside it, dressed as a normal teenager. During the walk, she befriends Sarah. Sarah is one of the wives, who is under punishment for an unspecified sin. One of the first wives of the shepherd, but now were seen as impure and treated without regard. One night Sarah explains to Sela how she would go into a river many years ago and take off her clothes, exposing her gorgeous and tempting backside to the night. Sarah also tells Sela that her mother did not die in childbirth, but rather caught an infection and died because the shepherd would not let her seek medical attention. Sarah admits that she has no faith in the shepherd but stays because she has no place else to go. The next night, the shepherd has his way with Sarah, touching her body however he feels like. He dipped his fingers inside her throat, causing her to react like she had to throw up. When Sela has her first period, she must stay in isolation with Sarah because menstruation makes her unclean. As the wives and daughters continue to trek, the strenuous hike causes one of the wives to go into premature labor. After a long day of childbirth, the baby is born but the mother dies in childbirth. However, the increasing rage of Sela continues to burn deeply. After the funeral, Sarah tells Sela that she is leaving with the baby, whom the shepherd had wanted to abandon in the wilderness because they were born wrong, which meant the child was a baby boy. Sarah reveals that the shepherd wanted to abandon the baby because there can only be one ram in a flock. Sarah tells Sela she needed to be strong to lead her sisters, and open their eyes to the problem they were heading to. At a particular spot, during their journeys, and the shepherd having confused the rest of them, Tamar, one of the girls, suggests a route for them. The shepherd gets angry at Tamar and beats her, further eroding Sela's regard for him, leaving him with only anger to answer. The group arrives at a valley with a large lake, which the shepherd declares will be their new paradise Eden. The sisters' faith has been shaken by the journey, but the shepherd baptizes everyone. That night, he calls Sela to his tent, talks about her beauty and rapes her. Before waking up, she fantasizes about the sisters killing the shepherd, with all of them pinning him down and biting his orifices before taking him out with a boulder. The next morning, the sisters awake to find the wives missing. They go to the lake to find the shepherd kneeling near the wives' robes. He tells them that the wives have ascended into a new life and the sisters must replace them. Ultimately, this means he single-handedly took the life of all the adult women in the group. He calls Sela to his presence, but Sela confronts him, telling him, "You are not our shepherd." He smacks her and she hits him back. Sometime later, two police officers discover the bodies of the wives washed up on the shore of the lake. They also discover the shepherd's dead body suspended between two trees, a pair of ram's horns placed on his head like a fawn. This could only mean that the dream Sela had was no dream at all. She and her other sisters practically sent the bishop to his deathbed. After that sight we see all the sisters, led by Sela, gathered around a water